this week. An inspiring article speaking to the very nature of why Freemasonry is important for the world. A guest piece by Brother Samuel Christensen espouses all the reasons one might consider Freemasonry important in today's world. Then, we've got an all-new Masonic Minute with illustrious Brother Stephen L. Harrison, Masons, who went to space and came back, with changed perspectives on all of humanity. Brother Steve Harrison tells the tale. We'll wrap up this week with our continuation on the series by Kris Wilson-Slack on Theurgy through the Masonic lens. How can Freemasonry help us achieve the lofty goal of transmuting consciousness from its mundane existence to the highest reaches of heaven? All this and more. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Whence Came You, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry. Here's your host, Brother Robert Johnson.
Welcome back to the show. This is episode number 704. I want to thank our contributors, fellows, producers, and legacy partners of the WCY podcast. Without you, we can't make this show the way we do it, in the high quality and trusted Masonic education fashion that we do it. If you're curious on how you can assist the WCY podcast in its mission to bring quality, trusted Masonic education and education related to its kindred sciences to all those interested, head on over to our website, wcypodcast.com, click on Support the Show, and check out the various options. Also, please check out the shop, where you can pick up a producer's pin, or check out the WCY Etsy store, which is where we sell all kinds of really cool items that I either make with leather. I'm a leather crafter, so we do lots of everyday carry things like keychains, wallets, and a lot of custom stuff too. So if you're interested in something custom, go ahead and click through the shop or send me a direct email and I'll get right back to you. Additionally, you can pick up any number of the autographed editions of several different books that I've published myself or that I've worked on with Brother John Ruark of the Masonic Roundtable. All of the money raised goes right back into this podcast. I want to thank Greater South Hills Lodge number 684 for the fellowship and the awesome opportunity to come out and share a presentation that we called Freemasonry in America and its Colonial Tavern Beginnings. This was a wonderful event. It was put on for the 47th Masonic District in Pennsylvania. The Worshipful Master, Steve Hudak, is awesome. All the brothers there were quite engaging and just some of the best fellowship you can find. So I really want to say thank you so much for having me out. They were thinking about presentations related to America's 250th anniversary. And so we talked a lot about the founding of this country through those revolutionary days and, of course, Freemasonry's involvement in those beginnings. If that sounds like a cool presentation for your lodge and you're interested, or maybe you're interested in a different type of topic, you can certainly email me anytime and see if I can come out to do something for your lodge. I'd be happy to. All of my presentations and the schedule are on the website, wcypodcast.com. Click on the presentation schedule at the top, and you'll see the different presentations that I give. I try to sort of segment them out into different buckets, like if they're philosophical or historical, etc. So enjoy having a look at that, and maybe I'll see you at a lodge coming up soon. I will be at Hartford Lodge number 190 in Hartford, Wisconsin on March 23rd, doing Freemasonry, A History of Mystery. And on March 24th, the very next day, I will be at Geneva Lodge 139, doing the Arc and Freemasonry. And then on March 26th, I'll be doing Esoterica 101 right here in Illinois, Tinley Park, Illinois, for Landmark Lodge number 422. And on April 3rd, I'll be doing the Masonic Pub Crawl, Freemasonry in America and its Colonial Tavern Beginnings at Manassas Lodge 182 in Manassas, Virginia. And then, of course, late April, Stop Guessing, Start Knowing, the Science of Lodge Education. June 20th, I'll be at Esotericon doing the Mystic Tones of the Rosy Cross. And in September, I'll be out in Maine. More on that to come in the future. First up, I want to take a moment and read a piece that was sent to me from Brother Samuel Christensen. He sent it over to sort of get my thoughts on the article, it was composed by him for his district education officer, and I thought the piece was wonderful. And I asked Brother Samuel, can I read this on the show? And he said, you sure can. So here is this piece. It's called For the Making of Men, again by Samuel Christensen. For the Making of Men. An urgent call to Wisconsin's men and Masons. Wisconsin stands in a moment where the strength of its communities, families, and future depends on the character of its men. Across the state, isolation is rising, civic engagement is falling, and families are strained by pressures that weaken the bonds that once held towns and generations together. The need for grounded, principled, and service-minded men has not been this clear in decades. Freemasonry, long a stabilizing force in Wisconsin's civic life, offers a path forward rooted in discipline, brotherhood, and moral development. The craft's mission to build men who build a better world has never been more relevant. A tradition built for times of uncertainty, Freemasonry arrived in Wisconsin before statehood, carried by soldiers, settlers, and craftsmen who needed more than shelter and food. They needed order, moral grounding, and a brotherhood that demanded something of them. Lodges became places where men learned to govern themselves, so they could help govern the world around them. That mission has not changed. What has changed is the world's need for it. Today, Wisconsin's lodges remain one of the few places where men are intentionally shaped, not into consumers or spectators, but into builders, mentors, better men, better husbands, better fathers. A place where we can build temples in the hearts of men. The work Wisconsin needs. Freemasonry's promise is not abstract. It is lived out in the quiet, steady work of lodges across the state, supporting youth programs and mentorship initiatives, funding life-saving equipment for first responders, providing relief to families in crisis, strengthening local charities, food banks, and shelters, offering men a place to grow in discipline, patience, and moral clarity. These acts are not random charity. They are a strong natural result of forming men who take the responsibility for the world around them. Strong men make strong families. Strong families make strong communities. Strong communities make a strong Wisconsin. A call to men. This is a moment that demands more than commentary. It demands commitment. Men across Wisconsin are searching for purpose, for brotherhood, and a standard to rise to. Freemasonry offers a path that is ancient, structured, and proven. It does not promise ease. It promises transformation. It asks men to show up, to be accountable, to grow, to serve, to lead, not for applause, but for the quiet, generational work of strengthening the world, one life at a time. A call to Masons. For the Masons of Wisconsin, this is not a time to retreat into memory or nostalgia. It is a time to stand upright and act. The state needs lodges that are visible, engaged, and courageous. Lodges that mentor all men. Lodges that support families. Lodges that serve their towns not as relics but as anchors. The craft has always been at its best when it answers the needs of its age. This age needs men of character, conviction, and compassion. Men who can steady their families, strengthen their communities, and carry forward the values that built Wisconsin. Freemasonry can provide them, but only if Masons lead the way. The promise. Freemasonry does not claim to fix society. It claims to form the men who will. In a time when so much feels uncertain, the craft offers something rare, a path toward becoming the kind of man who makes his family safer, his community stronger, and his state better. Our work is as endless as the blue dome of heaven. This is the work. This is the calling. This is the making of men. Again, that was by Samuel Christensen, and I find this to be a very inspiring, uplifting, and a universal message to those interested in the craft, those in the craft, regardless of socioeconomic, political persuasion, race, sex, creed, sexual orientation. None of it matters. This is a call to bring all those quality people from all of these groups into one place to focus on building a better world. And I think if you wanted to, you could certainly replace the word Wisconsin with the world. and this article would be just as strong, if not even stronger. So, to Brother Samuel Christensen, I want to thank you once more for allowing me to read this on the program, and hopefully this will inspire members and those interested in the craft to join or recommit yourself to the great work that Freemasonry does. All right, next up, let's get into a wonderful Masonic Minute with illustrious Brother Stephen L. Harrison. Let's check this one out.
When I consider the heavens, what is man that thou art mindful of him? Psalm 8, verses 3 and 4. On February 5th, 1971, Brother Ed Mitchell piloted the Apollo 14 lunar lander Antares to the moon's surface. Stepping outside, the stunning view above left him dazed and disoriented. The distant Earth and sun became vivid blue, and brilliant white orbs suspended before him. They hung in the stillness of piercing, steel-white stars, immersed in an ineffable blackness, a silent, infinite shadow box of everything amidst nothing. In an instant, the view left Mitchell breathless and, moreover, changed his life. On the return flight, Mitchell's job was essentially done, giving him time to contemplate what he had seen on the lunar surface. He concluded he had experienced a euphoric, visceral moment of knowing. Back on Earth, Mitchell said the awe-inspiring view brought a sudden and intense change in his psyche. It generated a dissatisfaction with the state of the world and a compulsion to do something about it. You want to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck, he said, and drag him 250,000 miles out and say, "Look at that, you son of a bitch." He became deeply interested in the state of consciousness, likening the experience with the Sanskrit term Savakalpa Samadhi, or a state of ecstasy and oneness. We all experience this phenomenon differently, he explained. I know some would go right to a religious explanation. Mitchell, however, wanted to know more about it. He had experienced what he called a deep knowing, that the universe was not a random accident, but a mysterious, connected unity, a symbolic, infinite manifestation of the quantum particle connectedness Einstein called spooky. He wanted to know why it happened and, more importantly, what it meant. This ephemeral event so stunned Mitchell that in 1973, the hardcore, no-nonsense test pilot founded the Institute of Noetic Sciences to research the nature of consciousness and the interconnectedness of all things. Today, years after Mitchell's death, the Institute continues his mission to explore a scientific view of our inner experiences, a bridge between science and our otherwise inexplicable existential world. Mitchell's public scolding of petty politicians and near obsession with his experience led to a greater public awareness of the phenomenon, which has been right in front of us since the first astronaut took flight. His son of a bitch remark, which resounded with the general population, went viral. Space philosopher and author Frank White followed up by interviewing several astronauts who had been through this experience firsthand. He called the phenomenon the overview effect, and in 1987 published their thoughts in a book with that title. White discovered almost all astronauts have had a form of this experience upon viewing the unfiltered heavens. He found a variety of after effects on those who had seen this unique and awesome view: religious, spiritual, environmental, esoteric, and political. While there is no statistical difference between the reactions of male and female astronauts, there is a clear difference between those who describe their reactions to viewing the Earth from space versus viewing the heavens. Simply put, look down and your concerns focus on the planet and its people. Look up and you focus on the infinite mysteries of the universe. On Apollo 15, Al Worden experienced the first and only deep space extravehicular activity when he left his command module during the journey back from the moon. His stunning view, suspended halfway between the Earth and moon, was such a catalyst for introspective reflection that he became a poet, writing his first verses while still on that voyage. Brother Gordon Cooper felt it confirmed a higher power and composed a prayer in orbit, which he later delivered to a joint session of Congress. Brother Wally Schirra said it gave him a sense of dignified freedom and being born again. To Brother James Irwin, the experience was not just a psychological shift. It was a full-scale religious conversion. He arrived at the moon as a casual Christian, but returned a devout evangelist. Even unyielding hero of the Soviet regime with its atheistic stance, Alexei Leonov, the first person to take a spacewalk, experienced a profound psychological and spiritual change. He became an artist, painting views of the universe. Later in life, he openly practiced and expressed Russian Orthodox beliefs. There are many other examples, but perhaps Brother John Glenn said it best. To look out at this kind of creation and not believe in God is to me impossible. It just strengthens my faith. I wish there were words to describe at least some of the feelings you have, but I don't think those words have been created yet. It gives you a completely different perspective on how you live your life and what you think is important. None of us is an astronaut. None of us will ever have the privilege of seeing this pristine, unveiled view of the cosmos. Or will we? Head out on some cloudless, intensely clear winter night to a place miles from any city lights. Stand in the middle of a field with the air hanging crisp and still and no obstructions on the horizon. Survey the canopy of heaven with the mist of the Milky Way painted across the deep black sky. Marvel at the myriad of stars you never realized existed before. Turn to the south and see Orion, looming larger than he has ever seemed, awe-inspiring and overpowering, staring straight back at you as if you alone are the focus of creation. Remember the words of Brother Glenn. Remember the 8th Psalm. Remember, astronomy is that sublime science which inspires the contemplative mind to soar aloft and know the wisdom, strength, and beauty of the great architect of the universe. Stand there long enough, and the vices and superfluities that plague your 24-inch gauge may soften. Daily annoyances and problems gain perspective. These are the same stars that changed the lives of brothers Mitchell, Glenn, and the others. They might just do the same for us earthbound voyagers. For the Whence Came You podcast, this is Steve Harrison with the Masonic Minute.
All right, how awesome was that? Super poetic, talking about these larger-than-life concepts of making us almost insignificant, but making us the focus of what matters. I love how Steve brought in and talked about Edgar Mitchell. Edgar Mitchell was such a profound thinking individual and such a esoteric, if you will, powerhouse. A lot of his work was made known through, of course, the Dan Brown book and the Institute for Noetic Sciences, as that was relayed in the Lost Symbol book that Dan Brown did. But it goes farther than that, right? The examining of what multiple astronauts thought upon looking at the cosmos in perhaps, I guess, what we could consider the most objective way possible, removing us from the place whence we came to look at all of it in whole, sort of a Arjuna sees the all of reality moment from the Bhagavad Gita moment. Anyway, inspiring, wonderful, and our thanks goes out one more time to illustrious brother Steve Harrison. We'll put a link back to the YouTube video. That's right, there's a video that goes along with this if you'd like to watch as well. That'll be on the YouTube channel. And, of course, we'll add it to the playlist, Masonic Minutes, so you can check that out as well. And if you have any inclination to find out more about illustrious brother Harrison's work, please check out, I will put additional links in the show notes to his available works, which include The Imperfect Storm, which is a wonderful book that we've talked about with Steve on his work, sort of solving and the final word, really, on the Morgan Affair. If you think you know about the Morgan Affair and you haven't read that book, you don't. Plain and simple. It is incredible. Steve also does a presentation on that recently that is phenomenal. I definitely recommend having him out to do this presentation. It is about 45 minutes to an hour of just mind-blowing, amazing content. So once again, thanks to Steve Harrison for this, and be sure to check out those links. Next up, we are going to continue this multi-part series on Theurgy and Freemasonry. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we read the first in a 4-part series as it currently stands. I believe there are 4 parts. Kris Wilson-Slack has not produced a 5th part. I don't know that they will, but here we are. We will read Theurgy Part 3, and links to the previous 2 will be in the show notes if you need to get caught up. So here we go. Theurgy Part 3, Kris Wilson-Slack. It begins. In the 3rd part of the series on Masonic Theurgy, we learn of the ancient Platonic sequence by which consciousness is transmuted from its mundane existence to the highest reaches of heaven. How can Freemasonry help us achieve this lofty goal? The third aim of esoteric Freemasonry, as outlined in our first 3 posts, is that of henosis, or the unity of the human with the divine. To understand henosis, we need to briefly look at the Neoplatonist cosmology. The spiritual universe, according to Plotinus, results from a series of emanations from the source divinity. To hen, the divine, the deity without quality. Nous, mind and universal consciousness. Psyche, the soul of the individual and of the world. Physis or physis, nature, matter. In this Neoplatonist Greek cosmology, there was no descent into an underworld, as there was no underworld. For them, catabasis was the descent of the soul into a physical body upon incarnation. Hades was allegorized and viewed as the world that we and all beings inhabit. Therefore, there was no need to descend to understand divine consciousness. The only way to go was to ascend, anabasis, or anabasis. Consequently, to achieve unity with the divine, the human needed to raise himself through the emanations of the divine, anabasis. And Theurgy was how this anabasis was and is achieved. The use of Theurgy in the practice of spells, incantations, invocations, and ritual movements was developed primarily by Porphyry, Iamblichus, and Proclus. But these developments were built off the earlier work of Empedocles, Pythagoras, and Plato. Early Neoplatonist works, particularly the Chaldean oracles, cited the many spiritual beings who traveled within and between these emanations, who lived within each realm. References to these beings have lingered until today, albeit in different forms and achieving different purposes. Examples are angels, daemons, divas, and elementals. These beings are invoked and requested to help the neophyte on their journey. so they make no missteps or misspeak. They guide the neophyte in the work at his request, and this is done in Freemasonry by the officers and attendees at an initiation ceremony. Medieval theurgists took the writings from the Neoplatonists and moved them even further toward these spiritual beings, becoming active intermediaries for the human toward the source. With the advent of Christianity, the beings split into those that were for personal gain and those that were for humanity's gain. Personal gain was considered evil and self-serving, whereas those who worked for humanity or Christianity were for the betterment of all. Theurgists would summon an angel to converse with and seek advice from, so that they might receive God's will. The theurgists would ask for prophecy or scripture to be explained to them and to understand further the nature of the physical universe, so that they may control it. It's from this time that we see the idea of magic being evil growing in stature. Looking at the doctrine of emanation from a Masonic point of view, Freemasonry has continued this tradition and taken back some of the ideas of achieving henosis that originated in antiquity. From the point that the neophyte has, in his initiation, traveled his journeys until he is poised on the threshold of a heavenly world, he has moved from his earthly existence and is within the realms of his birth as a child of heaven. From here, a series of powerful actions takes place to bring him through the final portal to the level of the next emanation, in this case, psyche, the place of the personal and world soul. He is the presence of the beings who work at this level, that officers and columns of Freemasons within the lodge. Also present are those intermediaries that exist between the realm of psyche and physis, attending in a temple not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. He has achieved this anabasis through all of their theurgic efforts. One thing many neophytes experience during this time in the ceremony is the sense that the room is full of people, that there are many more beings in attendance than actually are. Couldn't this portal, constructed within the center of the temple and opened by the divine ritual magic, be the reason for this feeling? There are many, many more aspects to the Masonic ritual that could be considered theurgic, and much more to explore throughout the degrees of Freemasonry. The Neoplatonist philosophy, which informs so much of Freemasonry, should not be considered only a mental pursuit. We derive much of the active principles of Freemasonry in these Neoplatonic works, and delving into these origins enriches our ritual 100-fold. In fact, to fully achieve the initiatory anabasis, every Master Mason must consider themselves a theurgist. This is not to say that Freemasons should learn spell casting or create their own invocations, especially in the modern, uneducated, and profane sense of theurgy. The theurgy aspects of the ritual are already deeply embedded in all that we do before, during, and after a lodge meeting. The theurgist is a practitioner of divine magic, not a practitioner of magic in the world of appearances. We are educated by employing charges, writings, and study to just begin to understand what is necessary for the improvement of all humanity. Active participation in Freemasonry educates the neophyte in what is necessary to journey from the practical aim of awakening our underdeveloped capabilities towards, I believe, henosis, the goal of esoteric Freemasons for all of humanity. All right, there you have it, this wonderful piece, Part 3, Theurgy by Kris Wilson-Slack. Christine has been writing on Masonry and occult topics for years and years. She is someone I consider to be an adept in understanding many of these concepts, and certainly, one more time, I want to thank her for her wonderful writing. And if you want to check out more of her writing, you certainly can. You can go on over to universalfreemasonry.org and you can check out their wonderful repository of Masonic articles and educational pieces. It's a great resource, regardless of your jurisdiction or Grand Lodge or even your kindred science. Thank you once more to our supporters of the show, our contributors, fellows, producers, and legacy partners. You guys are amazing. If you're out there thinking, hey, I love this podcast, I listen all the time, I want to know how I can assist, well, head on over to the website, as I mentioned in the top of the show, wcypodcast.com, click on Support the Show, and check out the various options and how this all works. And hey, You can also help us out by just sharing the links to the show to your friends who are interested in Freemasonry, or maybe a particular topic we cover in the show might be interested to a non-Mason that you know. Or maybe you want to just share it to your lodge Facebook group or Discord chat, whatever it might be. But that's it for this week. I want to thank you all for joining, and we'll talk to you next week. And until then, stay on the level. For Whence Came You, I'm Robert Johnson. Take care.
You've been listening to Whence Came You, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry, with your host, Brother Robert Johnson. Be sure to join us for our next edition.
WCY Media.
Why, that's BBS rock.